Welcome to the Bag Makers Workroom. I'm Chris with Simply Classic, and today is Thursday, February 26th, 2026. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We go live every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. If you can't join the live, watch the recording on YouTube at any time. Make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon to be notified when I post a new video or when we go live. So I want to say hi to Moss N081. She's in Washington State checking in. We have Cece Was, Betty Sherman from North Olmsted, Ohio. I was there not too long ago. And then Lori is from Victoria, British Columbia. So thank you so much for joining us this evening. We really do appreciate you taking a little time out of your day to sit and join us. That's why we do what we do. So today we're talking about fur and hair on hide, both real and faux. And here's what we have planned. We're going to start out by going over what's new in the Simply Classic Scoop. Then I'm going to show you our pattern of the week, which is the Kaplan and some perfect pairings. We'll learn about different kinds of fur and faux fur that can be used to make bags and some history behind it. Then we're going to look at some designer bag inspiration. We'll feature our customers' bags in Artistry Avenue. And then finally, we'll give away some patterns and do a Q&A at the end. So before we get started, please take a second to click the thumbs up button below. It really does make a difference, and I really do appreciate it. So now it's time for the Simply Classic Scoop, and this is where I tell you what's new here at Simply Classic. And the first thing I want to mention is I'm finally back for a live stream. I feel like I haven't been here much in February. It's been a really crazy month, and it's just nice to finally be home and be here with you this evening. We obviously had to record our episode last week because I was in Prescott, Arizona at the Southwest Leather Workers Trade Show. So here are some photos from that. It was really a great event. And I was really excited because my sister-in-law, Janet, who a lot of you know Janet, and I went together. We had a little girls getaway. And we ended up taking a couple classes. It was fun to be a student instead of teaching, just kind of a different vibe. And I got to relax a little bit and have some fun. The booth on the left is the alligator hide booth. And let me tell you what, that's what we did. We ended up making an alligator bag, which I'll show you in just a minute. But I need to tell you about this alligator. It's pretty cool. But let me show you, the middle booth is Montana Leather Company. And then you can see on the right there, this entire body of armor was made from leather. It was really amazing. Now, these people, the vendors, and a lot of the people who attend this are what I call like the hardcore leather guys. Okay, they're the old timers. They still make saddles by hand. They do most of the stitching by hand. They do stirrups and chaps. And okay, we're talking about like real artisan leather stuff. It's really amazing. So I was really honored to be able to go. And let me tell you a little bit about this alligator. So the gentleman that runs this booth and taught the class is located in Florida. And he is the nuisance alligator warden, I guess you call him, for his county. And what that means is that if an alligator ends up in somebody's pool or, around people, someplace it shouldn't be, then they call him. And he goes out and he captures the alligator. Well, if the alligator's under 4 feet, he has to re-release it, okay? The alligator's over 4 feet, then essentially he can exterminate the alligator. So what he does is he goes through, and I guess he gets called. He got a call while we were there, and so he gets calls a lot. And once he brings an alligator home, he has to wash it with Dawn dish detergent and bleach. He has to scrub it down, and then he pressure washes the alligator. Once that's done, only then can he actually cut the alligator, get the meat out. Because if he does it before, the meat gets tainted because the alligator has E. coli on it because they're in lakes and ponds and places where it's not so savory. And so in order to keep the meat from getting tainted, he has to wash the alligator before he can do anything else with it. but he uses every single part of the alligator. So the meat goes to restaurants. The other things that you can't eat goes to someone who does something else with it. We'll just leave it at that. I don't really know what happens, but something else happens with that part. And then the skins, he salts them. And then a couple times a year, he takes them down to a tannery in South Florida. And they basically take anywhere between 14 months to 2 years to tan the hide. That's how long it takes. So, our question was, well, why does it take that long? That's crazy. But I guess what they do is, from my understanding, is they dye, like every month they dye a different color. So let's say he orders an olive green and a purple and a brown. Well, they might only dye the hides that particular color purple one time per year. So they'll hold all the hides, wait till they get enough, and then they'll dye them all. And so anyway, I guess sometimes it takes a whole year to make a rotation. And so the common colors, like the blacks and the browns, he tends to get a little quicker. But then the colors takes a little longer. So it was really interesting to talk with him and to see, part of his whole thing is actually like hunting and getting the alligators. So anyway, real American alligator. It was pretty cool. So the 2 workshops that I took while I was there was, of course, we made an alligator bag. And then I also took a little workshop about metal zippers. So that was really interesting. And I'm hoping to really incorporate that into some of our leather bag making by machine classes, some of the metal zippers. So I want to show you, this is the bag that I made. It's a really simple design, okay? But the really cool thing about this is we dyed this leather, okay? I've never dyed leather before, so that was a really neat experience. Basically, when we got the hide, it was pre-cut, and it was called crust. We received crust alligator, which means undyed. It's just kind of bleached white, and that's it. So what I did on this, and we're going to go to the overhead so you can see it a little bit better, but I'm going to move this up here. So you see it almost looks two-tone, right? So what I did is I did a mahogany leather or mahogany dye first. And then I took another, like a rag, and went over it after it dried with a black dye. Okay. And that's why you see these kind of black accents. And then from there, we put a finish on it. Now, both the strap, you can see here, this part is alligator. Underneath is not. This is actually a cowhide underneath here. Okay, let me get these out of the way. It'll be easier for you to see. And then on the inside, the same thing. See how this is solid black? So the inside is an actual cow. I think the sides are pigskin. This is just like a black liner. So essentially, we glued the 2 pieces together, lined them all up, put a snap in, gussets in, and the hardware, and that pretty much made the bag. You see there's nothing here on the inside. It's just an open bag. But it's really was a cool, perfect bag to learn how to work with dyeing the leather, how to work with alligator itself. It's actually a pretty thin material. And we stitched this on machines. We had cylinder arm machines. I think there was 10 people in the class, and we shared 2 machines. And so I did 2 lines of stitching around the gusset, and then just did a little bit of edge painting here around the side. And that was it. So anyway, it was really cool. So Shauna says, love that. Wow, what color did Janet do? So Janet actually, good question. She did a lighter brown, and then she did the darker brown on top. So hers looked a little bit different. Everybody got to choose their own, but it was variations of brown and black. When nobody, we didn't have the option to do any colorful colors. It was very, very, monochromatic, or not monochromatic, but just kind of low key. But it was really great. But you can see the scales of the alligator. Isn't that cool? It was fun. I enjoyed it. I have to say it was definitely worth the trip to go. And if you ever have a chance to go to one of those leather shows, I think they have them in like Prescott, Arizona, Sheridan, Wyoming, and some of the places in Montana, maybe. What brand of dye was used? It was just the Pairings dye. It was nothing, stuff you can get like Tandy Leather or really pretty much anywhere. It wasn't anything like special. The top coat that we put on it, we actually put it on our hands. It was kind of like a soupy, I actually took a picture of it. I couldn't tell you what it is off the top of my head, but it's almost like a clear soupy thing, and you take it and you just flop it on the bag and you rub it in with your hand, and it gives it kind of that glossy look. And before that, the colors didn't stand out quite as much, but as soon as you put that top coat on it, man, it made it shine. It was nice. It was fun. I enjoyed it. So that's where I was last week. I was out having a little bit of fun. I also met up with Robin, who some of you may know from the chat or from the Facebook group. She lives in Arizona. And so we ended up going out to dinner with her and her family. So Robin is here on the left, and she had her Talise with her. And Bob is Robin's husband. He actually decided he's going to start sewing bags too. And that was his very first bag ever. He made the Julie. Isn't that, it was just amazing. They both were amazing. It tickled me because Robin said, you know, I'm fine with him sewing, but he needs to have his own machine. So they had to go out and buy another machine for Bob. So Bob has his own sewing machine and Robin has her own sewing machine, and they kind of share space, and they make bags. It's just so cool. But we really appreciated the time we spent with them. It was nice to get to know them for, a little bit better. And they actually drove a few hours to meet us. So it was really a special time. So something else that happened actually this week was yesterday. We had our February sew along with Shanova from That's So Nova. So we met on Zoom and did 2 different hacks with the Simply Classic Clutch. A few people already posted their bags in the Facebook group, and I wanted to show you what they made because everyone did such a fantastic job. I think we had quite a few people on there. And I know that since we've kind of collected the photos, a few more people have posted. But let's take a look at what we have here. So Andrea, okay, let me just say, Andrea is from the UK. She joined us on the live stream. I think for her, it was 7 o'clock at night, and she made Nova's version. And look at this. She added the fringe on the bottom. How gorgeous is that? She did amazing. I also want to mention that Helen, we don't have a picture of Helen's bag here, but Helen joined us. She is from Australia. It was, I think, 5 in the morning for her. So, we had people from all over the world on this sew along, and it was so special. We had a great time. Anthony also was there, and he made this bag out of our purple, well, actually it's lavender large scale croc. And he said, I'm actually on my way to a birthday party, and I think this is going to be the gift. It came out so good. I love it. And then Jess made this version, and she actually used our blue-gray leather, so that's real leather, and then she used a faux leather accent, which is the geometric arrows, and it really matches great. And what I really like, one of the things that Jess did is she used the a triple chain on it. And if you remember from the runway, I think it was in the fall or in the spring, I can't remember which one, but anyway, that was very popular with those like double and triple chains. And we actually talked about some different ways to achieve that with that large chain that you see there on Anthony's bag. So one of the best things about the sew along is that we share ideas. We get so many different, basically the people in the sew along said, I can't wait to make another one because I got so many good ideas here. I want to make another one to do something a little different. Some people were making both of our bags. Some people were making Nova's. Some people were making it was just fantastic. A lot of people said, well, I did one, but now I want to go back and do the other one too, because I have so many great ideas. So they're really fun. If you ever get a chance to join, I encourage you to do so. It is really just a great time. The thing I get out of it the most is talking with all of you, being live, being able to get to know you some, and then the ideas. That's amazing. So the other thing I want to mention to you is I have a couple of new products to show you here. And these products are from Purple Hobbies. And we're going to go to the overhead. We have 2 things here that are really cool. One of them is a blade capture. Let me take them out of the, you can probably see that better. This is a blade capture cap for a canning jar. And you might have seen these around. I think I saw them somewhere. I really wasn't sure what they were, but now I know. And this one is a needle capture. So basically what this is when you get the needle catcher, you get this, okay, just this little cap, and you see there's a hole in it. All you have to do is take some kind of bottle. Okay, I have a water bottle here. You can use a Coke bottle. You can use any kind of bottle that kind of has this longer spout on it. Some of the cheaper, like grocery store bottles, you know how you can get like water that's grocery store brand, they won't fit because their necks aren't long enough. But something like this fits. And all you have to do is whenever you have a needle, I have one here, I just happened to change my needle today, you just stick it in and you let that fill up. And when it's full, you just put the cap back on, throw it away, and then you can just put this on another bottle. I mean, we all have, of course, tons of water bottles. This one here is the blade catcher, and it's for standard canning jars. So all you're going to get basically when you order this is this part here. And you see it has a needle hole, so you don't really need both. You could do just this one here if you'd like, okay? And you just put it on a canning jar. Now, I have this ball wide mouth canning jar, works great on there. You just go ahead and take the top off, put this on, and then you can go ahead. This is a 60mm blade. It goes right in, and you don't have to worry about screwing and unscrewing each time. When this gets full, replace the cap for the jar itself, and then you can just put this on another jar. And let's face it, it's going to take a while to fill these up, so it's going to last a while. But what a cute thing to have on your shelf in your sewing room. You know, what I'll probably do is take this Aquafina bottle thing off so that's clear as well. I'll have a couple clear bottles, and I keep them by my machine and just use them instead of, you know, finding other ways to dispose. So I really wanted to mention those because Purple Hobbies has so many cool things, and you need to go to the website and check it out. You've seen me use the Edge Guide on the Burnett machine. She's got some different kinds of ruler things and some zipper overlay cutouts. I mean, just all kinds of really cool things. So go check her out. We do have a code. If you go to her website, make sure you use the code Simply Classic, all one word, and you will get, I think it's 15% off. Okay. Wanted to share that with you. It's a great idea. So before we move on, we need to pick some giveaway winners from the last 2 episodes. So as a reminder, we give away 2 PDF patterns every week. One goes to someone watching live, and one goes to someone who leaves a comment on the replay. So we're going to go to the overhead, and first we're going to pick a winner from 2 weeks ago. Okay, we got 2 things here. And what we did was we have the name, of course, of everybody here. And we asked you to share your first name and your favorite bag trend from the spring runway. Okay. We had a lot of people enter. We have a lot of things here. So I'm going to go ahead and pick one of these. We have a couple that jumped out. Let's get them back in. Another one that jumped out. All right. I'm going to pick this one. So Coffee, Hobby, and Me, Chantel, says she loves the drawstring bucket bags. All right. Yeah, I like those too. Those were really very, very cool. All right. So that is Chantel. So now we're going to go ahead and pick 2 winners from last week's episode. And what we asked you was your first name and someone you'd like to see us co-host a sew along with in the future. We've got a lot of really great suggestions. So let's go ahead and pick 2 winners from this bunch here. So Sharon said, whoop, came out of focus. There we go. Let me try to get that out of the way. Maybe that'll help. I would like to see you join Nicole at Sonar. Okay, that's a great suggestion. You're not the only one that suggested that. We actually had a few people suggest that. So I think that would be a great option. We'll certainly be reaching out to some of these people. And then the second winner is Leslie. King. And Leslie is a common winner here. Somehow we keep picking her name, but she loves the idea of a co-host episode. One of my favorite teachers is Lynn's from Lynn's Handmade. All right, great suggestions. So we appreciate everybody who made a suggestion. Obviously, the more we know what you want, then obviously the more we can do it. And that's what we're here for. So congratulations to all of the winners. Please email share@simplyclassic.net within the next 30 days to claim your prize. And for everyone else, stick around because we'll be doing another giveaway towards the end of the show. So now it's time to talk about our new featured pattern, which is the Kaplan. So the PDF version of the Kaplan is on sale for $12.49 until Wednesday, March 11th. So here is the Kaplan. This obviously was a quarterly subscription bag box several quarters ago. It's a mid-size crossbody bag that has a really kind of unique flat closure here. It's one of my favorite things about the bag is how versatile it is. So depending on the materials you use and what modifications you do, it can really lean towards masculine or feminine. So we're going to go to the overhead and take kind of a closer look at this bag. So the flap has this unique accent that is actually not stitched, okay? It's stitched partially up the flap, but not all the way. So you can just slide that in. You got a little bit of movement there, and it holds that in place. It's really a great opportunity to use an accent color or even two accent colors. I've actually done this in a different color than the flap and this strip here. It has optional rivets. You certainly don't have to use rivets. You could stitch instead. Really, anywhere in my patterns that I mention rivets, you can just stitch instead. There's no, it's optional. It does have an adjustable crossbody strap. Okay, so you can wear it as a crossbody. You have this really big exterior pocket in the back that is accented. It is a slip pocket. Okay. Goes way down in there. My whole hand fits in there. So it fits a really large cell phone. It's nice and wide. Inside, you have a zipper pocket, a slip pocket, and then, of course, you have a key fob. Okay, so there we have a zipper pocket. Of course, we have our slip pocket, nice big slip pocket, and a key fob here. And the bag measures 10 3/4 inches across, 10 inches tall, and it is 3.5 inches deep. Okay, so 3.5 inches. Now, I consider this an intermediate bag, and here's why. It's because of these curves here. Okay, and let me tell you, these are not real severe curves. It's not that difficult. I think that, with a little bit of practice, you can certainly do it. I actually show you two different ways to sew these on in the video. So you can try it, see whichever method works best for you. But it really is an amazing, very stylish bag. So what's going to happen is, of course, this bag is $12.49 this week. Well, actually through March 11th, and it is for the PDF version only. Also, the hardware kits for the Kaplan are 10% off. And again, through March 11th, so go ahead and grab your pattern and your kit. So on the live stream next week, I'm going to show you how to hack the Kaplan and make it more of a messenger bag. So that's going to be this one here. So this is the Kaplan as well. Now, you can see I have some modifications here. And if you liked the Sorella man bag hack that I showed you a few weeks ago, I know a lot of you did, I decided to kind of go with the same theme and make this into a more masculine bag. So if you want to see how I made this, make sure you tune in next Thursday. You see I made the flap longer. Okay, did add a buckle. And I am going to say that if you do decide to do this, go ahead and get a buckle with a built-in keeper. I just didn't have one on hand when I made this bag. And I would also make this strap here a little bit longer. I mentioned that next week. So when I give you the measurements, just kind of keep that in mind. One thing I did, I'm just going to give you a quick look here, is when it's a snap, okay? And once you unsnap it, you can see I put the pocket that's on the back, I added a zipper to it and put it underneath the flap. So it makes it a little more secure. And you can see there's no curves here. Took those out. Curves are more feminine, okay? Fair to say. And so what I did was take those out to make it a more masculine bag. So essentially between taking the curves out, making the flap longer, and then just basically stitching this accent piece down without having any crossover, kind of makes it a little bit more masculine. So again, you want to see how I make this? Make sure you tune in next Thursday. We're going to have a sewing episode. I'm going to go over this with you. Put that back up there. Okay, so next we have perfect pairings, and it is where we show you some of our leather and faux leather with lining and thread and hardware that match. So if you're ever unsure about what goes together, feel free to reach out via email. We're always happy to help. I will mention that our new website does have some pairings on there. So when you go to a product and you click on it, if you want to see what matches it, there is another section that comes up that tells you what does match. We spent a long time going through the warehouse to make sure we got all of the matching products for you. But again, any questions, feel free to reach out. So for our perfect pairings, we're going with the aged brown faux leather, which is what I used in the bag I just showed you. Okay, it's got a very masculine look to it because it's kind of looks like an aged leather. The little bit of accent I put on there was the camel suede. Okay, so these two I think are amazing together. For the lining, we suggest the brown chambray by Tilda. I actually used sand thread for this, okay? I thought about brown, but I like the way that the sand contrasted. And let me just show you this bag one more time so you can kind of see the thread here. See if I can bring it up. Okay, you can see I used the sand. I think it really blended in with the aged part, and it looked really nice. And then, of course, like I said, bronze hardware. So that's what we suggest for faux leather. So for leather, we have this really beautiful leather that we call it our aged. Look at that. It's definitely, it has kind of a texture to it, but we call it our aged purple gray because sometimes you think it's purple and sometimes you think it's dark gray. But that would make it a really beautiful bag. We think that the eggplant Tilda, this is the eggplant chambray, would look great. And then midnight gray thread in gunmetal hardware. Gunmetal hardware, gorgeous with this. So the aged purple gray leather, okay, this is 10% off this week as well. So make sure you go ahead and grab those items while they are discounted, and we would love to see the bag you make. It would obviously make a beautiful Kaplan or any other bag that you put it on. So now it's time for Thursday Thread, and this is where I share a sewing story or design story. And today we're going to talk about the different kinds of animal fur and hair that are commonly used to make bags. I'm also going to give you a mini history lesson about fur and faux fur. And after that, we'll take a look at a few designer bags to get some inspiration. So first, let's talk about the difference between fur and hair. Scientifically speaking, they are exactly the same thing. But in practice, we tend to, use them differently. Like we don't call our hair fur, right? It's hair, but essentially it is fur. It's kind of the same thing. So here, let's start with the scientific explanation. All mammals have some kind of hair on their bodies. Hair comes in many different forms. And some examples are bristles on a boar, whiskers on a cat, the mane on a horse, or even a porcupine's quills. That's one thing we hadn't thought of. Some mammals are hairy all over, and some are only partially hairy, like humans. Others, like whales, are almost hairless. And so all of those different kinds of hair and fur, no matter what they look like, are all made of the same stuff, which is keratin. Now, I'm going to take you back a couple episodes. And I don't know, how many of you remember what else? We talked about another animal that had keratin on them. It wasn't a mammal. It was something different. Does anybody remember what that was? I'm going to give you a second to answer because it was really interesting to me. So we're going to move on. So in everyday life, we don't say, oh, that porcupine's so furry, because when we talk about fur, we're usually referring to soft, thick hair that covers large parts of a mammal's body. Fur typically has two coats, an undercoat and an overcoat, and it usually sheds with the seasons. All right, turtle. Lizard. Yep. So basically, stingray. Okay. Yeah. All of those. Exactly right. So basically, all of the reptiles, that turtle, that snapping turtle, remember those little spikes they had on them? That was keratin. Yeah. And you're right. All of those. It's really interesting that so many creatures, I guess I'll say, mammals, reptiles, doesn't matter, have keratin. And it just comes out in different ways. Who would have thought, right? We're a lot more alike than we realize. So Gypsum Robbie says, a gal sewed a bug's iridescent wings into a gown. Very stunning. Oh, there you go. And I'm assuming that, and I don't know this, but maybe wings are keratin too. It wouldn't surprise me. So again, we started talking about the undercoat and the overcoat. Good job paying attention, guys. I like it. It sheds, right? You hear about, your dogs, your cats, your animals shed with seasons. But when the animal has just one, and that's what we usually refer to as fur. When the animal has just one layer, we tend to call it hair. Okay. Even though our hair sheds, we tend to call it hair instead of fur. So that being said, you probably hear me use fur and hair interchangeably because it is essentially the same thing. So now let's talk about the different kinds of fur that are used for bags and garments. And we have a little chart here for you. Fur can be broken down into 5 basic categories, not scientifically, just based on how it's used in the textile industry. So you have luxury fur. That is your soft, lightweight, very dense furs like mink and sable and chinchilla. Then you have functional furs, and those are thick, durable, warm furs like fox, beaver, raccoon. You have pony hair, which is also known as hair on hide. It's short, sturdy, flat-laying hair made from cow or goat. Okay, so understand it's not ponies. They don't make it from ponies. It is actually shaved to resemble pony hair, and that's why they call it that. But it's cowhide or goat hide. Shearling is fluffy and warm. It's made from lambskin or sheepskin with the wool still intact. And then you have specialty fibers. They're soft and fine, used to make fabric. For example, like cashmere goats, or Angora rabbits, maybe alpaca. So in a few minutes, we're going to look at examples of these different kinds of fur. But first, let's talk about some textile history. So just like leather, fur has been used to make clothing for thousands of years. Here in the U.S., the fur trade is a huge part of American history. Trappers and hunters would travel all over and trade their furs for other goods. For a long time, fur was almost like currency. But by the mid-1800s, 2 things happened. First, fashion was changing and fur wasn't as popular as it used to be. And at the same time, animal populations were declining due to overhunting. So the fur industry really suffered. But that only lasted a few decades, because by the turn of the century, fur coats became popular among upper-class women in the United States, like in this photo from the 30s. But now, that fur wasn't coming directly from trappers or local artisans. It was coming from luxury fashion houses instead. So to feed the demand, farmers started farming foxes, and that allowed them to produce a lot more fur than they could through traditional trapping. It also allowed them to selectively breed the animals to get specific colors or textures. Fur coats and accessories remained popular through the mid-1900s, but fur bags really weren't a thing until 1960. And that's when fashion designer Karl Lagerfeld, who played such an important part in the history of design, he worked at Fendi at the time, and he introduced the concept of fun fur as a way to make fur feel more modern and trendy. His design he designed a lot of unique dyed, shaved, and patchwork fur during his time with Fendi, including fur handbags. You can see that these are still very high-end designs, but they're a little more modern and fun. So Karl Lagerfeld's furs inspired a lot of other designers to follow his lead, and fur bags have been around ever since. Now, fur does have its fair share of controversy, and a lot of people are opposed to it. So in fact, at the end of 2025, the Council of Fashion Designers of America announced that fur would no longer be featured at New York's Fashion Week starting in December of 2026. So let's talk about faux fur, since now we're kind of turning the page here. The first faux fur was introduced in 1920, but it actually wasn't completely fake. It was made from alpaca wool woven through a cloth backing. So here's an example of a coat from the 1920s. You can see what it looked like. It still is technically a fur product. It just isn't a piece of animal hide with fur intact. Faux fur, as we know it, was invented in the 1950s. By then, textile manufacturing had advanced to a point where they could use synthetic fibers like acrylic and polyester to manufacture faux fur. Just like with the alpaca coat, they typically weave the fur fibers onto the backing of fabric. We found these examples of faux mohair and real mohair coats from the 1950s, and you can really see the difference in quality. The faux mohair almost looks like terry cloth, and the real thing is much nicer. But over the years, the textile industry developed more sophisticated techniques, like combining coarse fibers with thinner ones to get a more realistic fur-like finish. The quality has gotten so good that even designer brands are opting for faux fur. So with that in mind, let's take a look at some designer bags that are made with fur and faux fur. So first, let's look at different kinds of real fur bags. As we talked about earlier, some animals have a more luxurious fur, while other furs are more functional and durable. That doesn't mean they can't be used to make beautiful bags, though. So these bags are made from quote-unquote functional furs. So we have raccoon, fox, and beaver. These bags are made from luxury furs as well, or luxury furs, not functional furs. So these are luxury, and they are mink, lynx, and chinchilla. And that lynx one is just beautiful. I think that's so pretty. So when you compare them to the bags we just looked at there, you can see the difference between the durable and the luxury furs. Okay. I mean, you should be able to. You can see the functional furs there on the top, where the luxury is there at the bottom. A lot more color variation in the luxury. I think that's fair to say. And, you know, you have a little bit different look. The durable furs are thicker. They have coarser hair, and the luxury furs are silkier and more lightweight. They're all very beautiful, just different look. So next is shearling, which again is lamb or sheepskin with the wool left intact. And that what makes it so naturally fluffy. And then finally, these are pony bags, which otherwise known as hair on hide or calf hair bags. And like I said earlier, they're not actually made from pony hides. Pony hair actually came from cows or goats. Both of these are made with calf hair. And I know it's a little hard to see, so I actually have some here that I can show you in the overhead. So I'm going to take the bags first and show you the difference. So here we have the Banda bag. And on this Banda bag, we have on the side here this is pony, what they call pony hair, or essentially cow hair. It's very thin, it's very short. You almost can't even feel the texture of it, okay? So that is real fur. As a contrast, I have a talise here with some of our faux fur, okay? Now you can see this faux fur, even in this light, has a lot more dimension to it, has a lot more color dimension. And I'm gonna come up real close and show you that these hairs, you can see there, the hairs actually move, okay? It's pretty cool. So actually the faux fur hairs are a little bit longer than the real fur hairs, because the real fur hairs, when I do this, you can kind of hear it, but there isn't much movement there. They're very, very, very short. Now, doesn't necessarily mean they're all that way, but that's just an example of faux versus real. So now I have this beautiful, we're going to go to the front camera. I have this really beautiful hide. This is real hair on hide, real fur. It is cow. It is brindle. You can see kind of the pattern of it. Okay. Beautiful, beautiful hide. So I'm going to pull up a corner here so we can look at it in the camera, and I can show you close up what it looks like. So again, the hairs are very short. Okay. If I do this, you can see them sticking up some. You can see this hair is a little bit longer than what I just showed you on the banded bag. Okay. So that's real cow. And as an example, I'm going to show you the faux, just some pieces of it. Okay. This is faux. So we have the chocolate brown, we have this ash brown color, and then of course we have our golden brown color. So looking at these two, I would say the length of the hairs on the real versus the faux are very similar. You have a lot of dimension in the faux as far as color, but in this particular hide, you have a lot of dimension in that too, because they actually kind of kept the original color. And I say that they might have done a little dyeing, but of the cow here. Okay. All right. So now I have a test for you. I've got like fur everywhere. Hold on a minute. Okay. I have two things to show you, and I want you to tell me what you think is real and what you think is fake or faux. We'll use the word faux. So I have this here. This is beautiful. Okay, this is another example of a fur hide. It is, you can see the hair is much longer. Okay, it is almost like maybe, depending on what kind of dog you have, you know, it could be almost like more like your dog hair. A lot of dimension to it, a lot of color in it. Okay, so this is one. So is number one real, or I'm going to lay this down and show you number two. This is number two. Okay. So number two, again, very soft. You can see we have some, dimension to this. We have some areas of shorter hair in this. So which do you think is real? One or two? It's interesting to see what you. Okay, so we have 1, 2. Number 1 is real. Number 1 is real. Number 2 is real. Okay, so we have 3 for number 1 and 2 for number 2. Okay, so now we're even, 2 and 2. 1, okay. 2, so now we're still even. 1, 1, and 2. Okay, so it looks like 2. Okay, so now we're back even. Hard to tell, right? It's hard to tell. We're going to go to the overhead. I'm going to show you. So here's number 1. Okay. And I'm going to show you the back now. This is the back of number 1. Does that help? May or may not. Here's number 2. Is this a trick question? Okay, here's number 2. And I'm going to show you the back of number 2. So does seeing the back help? You guys still mixed? These are wonderful. I'm going to tell you a little bit about where I got each of them in just a minute. So, okay, so Jerry Lynn thinks number 1 is real. Number 2, number 2, number 2, 2. Okay, Great. You got it. Number 2 is real. So this here is a piece of fabric that I got in New York a long time ago. Okay. Went to the fashion houses up there, did a little shopping, and basically it has suede on the back. Now you can use this for, coats, vests, anything like that. And you really don't even have to worry about lining it because it already has this really great suede lining in it. So this, number 1, is fake. It is faux fur. This, number 2, is real. Got this in Alaska when I went. And this is a silver fox. And basically what it is the silver fox. This is the legs of the fox here, the shorter section. And then this was the body of the fox. And what they did is hand piece it all together. They did these little hand stitches, or they might have done it by machine. I don't really know. But yeah, to get it all into one large piece. Now, I will say that I showed these to Shauna and Taylor, and I had them touch each one. As soon as they touched it, they were able to tell the difference. The real hair, the real fur was much softer than the faux, although the faux is still pretty darn soft. Number 1 looks real. Was it expensive? I don't remember it being super expensive. I'm sure it was probably a little bit more than, what I would. It's probably not something I'd buy anytime. It's probably something that you buy for a special thing. I had ideas of making like a coat with it or something, and then I moved to Georgia, and I was like, yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. So, but isn't it amazing how real it looks? So, they make faux fur so beautiful these days that you don't have to buy real. Okay, it is just amazing to me how beautiful they are. I mean, even the faux fur we have, it is so much easier to work with because it's not messy. I'm not saying that this really long, crazy one, that would probably be a little bit messy, but the faux fur we have is not messy. Like when you cut real hair on hide, it tends to get a little messy. If it's faux, it really doesn't. I want to show you one more thing. We're going to go to the overhead. So when I was in Alaska, I also bought, these are little tiny pieces. There was scraps of this animal. We talked about this animal earlier. I mentioned the animal earlier. And what I want to show you is look at here, let me try to focus in a little bit more. There you go. Okay. Look at that. Doesn't that almost look like feathers right there? That's the undercoat. Okay. It looks like feathers. It's not. It's fur. It's the undercoat of the fur. It's just shorter. This is the same animal, but you can see there's even longer hairs on it. And then, you get kind of that undercoat. So any guesses as to what animal this is? Like I said, we mentioned it earlier when we were going through all the different bags and what bags are made out of. We already talked about the fox. We had silver fox. And then this is very plentiful up there. Beaver. Yes, it is. Great job, Sonia. Yes, it was beaver. It was really interesting to me how it looks like feathers. It's that undercoat is so thick. I can see how or why it's like that. I mean, the beavers are in the cold water, right? And they have to stay warm. And I can see how a coat or something out of this would be like super warm. So cool stuff. I mean, it's fun to get out and explore and kind of find different things. So Zinnia says, does the real fur smell if it gets wet? I'm not sure. I haven't really gotten it. Haven't gotten it wet. I don't know that it does though. I think because it's been processed, it's probably okay. But it's not like leather. It doesn't have that smell like leather. Jesus said someone's toupee. Yeah, it could be. So Christine says, so if it's seamed together, how do the seams go together? That's a really good question. Let me show you. So when you stitch real hair on hide together, or real hair together, you don't stitch like you don't put right sides together and stitch here. Okay. What you're going to do is you're going to go like this and you're just going to kind of stitch the very edges together, which is why I think on the Fox, let me bring that over again. I think they did it by hand because you can see on here, like you see how it looks like it's just at the edge there. Is there a special machine for, no, there is not. Oh, there is a special machine for, yes, there is. I'm sorry. I thought you were, I have stitched it with my regular machine before, but you don't want to stitch like long hairs like this with it, right? So it's a machine. It's kind of like a blind hem machine that the needle goes, you put the hair like this, and the needle kind of goes from side to side and catches the underside. Okay. And so what you would do is you would put this together like this. And basically the needle would just kind of go, and I actually have a blind hem machine. And when you do that and you open this up, you can't even tell there's a seam there. It's really cool. It's pretty neat how it works. Okay, so fun stuff, right? I love going around to different parts of the country and going into stores and kind of seeing what they have. And it's this one store that we got the beaver and the fox in. I mean, Janet and I were in there. Janet and I have a lot of fun. we saw all kinds of different animals. It was there's a lot of indigenous people up there, obviously, that still do a lot of the stuff, and so it was really cool to be up there and seeing all of it. Okay, so now we've looked at the most common types of fur that are used in bag making. So now let's look at some bags that use real fur in interesting and creative ways, real and faux. So one thing I love about hair on hide is that depending on how you use it, it can have a very upscale Western look. These bags here from the brand American West use a combination of smooth grain leather and calf hair, along with lacing, decorative rivets, and fringe tassel. They're all very classic Western details. I like that they use the lacing to separate the hair on hide from the leather, especially the one on the left. Since the hair on hide and the leather are almost the identical same color, they use the lighter shade of brown for lacing to catch your eye and draw attention to all of the different textures. And of course, we did something similar with the talise I showed you a minute ago. We paired the faux hair on hide in the center with some decorative accents with the O-rings, and it really draws your attention to the center of that bag. So it's something to think about when you're using hair on hide as a contrast material. Consider how you can draw the eye there, especially if it's the same color as the rest of the bag. Now, this is a Chanel bag from the 90s where they actually quilted the hair. So isn't that interesting? I don't think I would necessarily try this myself. It's definitely a unique look, unique option. But let me know in the chat and in the comments kind of what you think about this one. I'm interested to hear. So let's look at some more shearling. It is very beautiful, very cozy, but it's not necessarily the most practical material for a bag. And that's why a lot of times you'll see shearling used as trim instead of all over the bag. Like here, you see it as trim. And a lot of times it's sewn into the seams itself. Another option is to top stitch it on. And sometimes, and especially on cheaper bags, it's just glued right onto the bag. So shearling, to me, is more of a fur that you're going to use on coats, hats, boots, mittens, that type of thing. It's something that's going to keep you really warm. So here's two more interesting bags with shearling. The bag on the left is faux, and I like that they actually did the gusset in the faux leather because it's going to make that bag last longer. If it was all like shearling all over, it would get dirty much easier, so it was smart to do this. Then the Valentino bag on the right is, of course, real, and they actually cut the shearling in the shape of their logo and stitch it onto the bag. Now, since the shearling is so fluffy, you can't really see the stitches unless you look really close. So Robin says, don't like the Chanel bag. Laura says, I don't care for the quilted. I don't care for the quilted hair on hide. I don't like the quilted one. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So Okay, I'm going to tell you my opinion because I don't like it either. It is, to me, hair on hide is not meant to be stitched on. Okay, you're not really meant to have a top stitch on it. I like to use hair on hide as an accent and then make sure that any stitching is on the actual like leather part of the bag. So I'm going to hold this up again. And one of the reasons why on this talise that we put, I designed it with this band is because I didn't want to stitch on top of this hair here. When you put these two pieces together, the top stitching is on this part of the bag, not on the hair on hide. I don't think stitching on hair on hide is very attractive. I think it takes away from it. Now, with that having been said, I do have a customer that says that one of the things she's done and she's heard about is that if you do stitch on the hair, you can take a comb and just take the little hairs out of the stitches so it covers up the stitches. So you still get the functionality of having a seam there and having a top stitch there, but it's not visible, okay? So I haven't tried that, but that's really an interesting point because I really feel like hair on hide, although it can be used in an all-over bag, to me, it's much more attractive and much more eye-catching used as an accent, paired with some other kind of leather. And we're going to show you a few more examples. I'm interested to hear what you say about these. So these are patchwork bags, and this is kind of another unique way to use fur. So we've talked about how to use patchwork before, but we've never used fur like this, and it would kind of be a fun twist. This bag on the left is from a small company called Moo Country that sells handmade bags. So it really is a cool geometric look. Or you can actually cut squares and piece them together like the bag on the right. This one's actually a vintage bag from the 1970s made of sheepskin. So, sometimes designer bag inspiration, we look at them and we go, oh my gosh, those are beautiful. And sometimes maybe not so much, but the idea of it is that you don't have to like every bag you see, but hopefully it sparks some imagination and it sparks some ideas and, maybe different ways to approach something. And that's kind of the idea of looking at all of these bags. Fur is very versatile. It can be cozy and casual, or it can be very sophisticated and luxurious, depending on how you use it. And the kind you use. So let me know in the chat and in the comments, which of these bags was your favorite? Are there any techniques you want to try? I always love to hear what you think. I think that you've got great ideas. I know you do. Yesterday is a perfect example with the sew along. You can come up with things I never thought of. So now it's time for Artistry Avenue, and every week we choose 3 bags that were posted in the Simply Classic bag making community on Facebook, or that were emailed to share@simplyclassic.net. If we feature your bag, you can get a free PDF pattern of your choice. You have 30 days to email share@simplyclassic.net to let us know which pattern you would like. So let's take a look at this week's artists. So Sonia made this Roseanne, and wow, isn't it beautiful? She used faux croc in solid blue faux leather, and the results are stunning, right? All the details are impeccable. She is such a talented sewist, and she also posts the best photos. They look like they're straight out of a magazine. Excellent job. So Marsha made the Kaplan, and this is, of course, our featured bag of the week. I love the monochromatic look with the snake and the solid red. It really gives the bag a lot of dimension. She even carried that over to the strap. Okay, so the top is snake and the bottom is solid. And she used a really pretty insect hardware on the flap. And let me just say that I have not seen a Kaplan done this way yet, where the flap and the middle section are the same fabric. And I have to say, I love this. I absolutely love it, to the point where, like, when I make another Kaplan, I want to do it that way. It is absolutely gorgeous. It looks like the back is solid, and I just love how she pulled all of this together. I really like that kind of monochromatic look. It almost makes the bag look like it's being hugged, right, from the sides, because it's all one solid color down the center. So absolutely gorgeous. Beautiful, beautiful job, Marsha. And then this is amazing. So again, a perfect example of how you guys come up with things that I never thought of. These are some really cool man bags. I was really impressed when I saw these. They were made by Anthony Rizzo, and he is always so creative with his pattern hacks. So he combined the Kaplan, which of course is the bag of the week, with the Little Leah. And for those who don't know, the Little Leah is in 2 sizes. You get in the pattern a skinny and a mini. So the main body of these bags is basically the Little Leah, okay? And then he removed the water bottle divider and he customized the interior pockets. He modified the Kaplan flap, which you can really see on the plaid bag. And he also used the exterior slip pocket from the Kaplan on both versions. So, I mean, what a combination. It's like the Kaplan and the Little Leah had a baby, and here you go. And you can see the bag on the right. He actually put the pocket under the flap. I also want to talk about his choice materials because he used our small checkered plaid vinyl and some of our misprinted faux leather for these bags. And I didn't realize how great these would look on men's bags. That checkered plaid vinyl is very masculine, especially paired with that brown. Oh my gosh, it is absolutely amazing for a masculine bag. So you can see the lining he used too, very masculine. You can see it in the close-up photos there at the bottom. So thank you to our amazing artists for sharing your makes. Don't forget to email share@simplyclassic.net within the next 30 days to let us know which PDF pattern you'd like. You guys are amazing. So before we move on to our Q&A, let's talk about giveaways. So we're going to give away 2 PDF patterns of your choice. We'll choose 1 live stream winner from the chat and 1 replay winner from the comments. So if you're watching live on Thursday, here's how to enter. All you need to do is type the word classic in the chat. Just type it 1 time and we'll randomly pick a winner while we do our Q&A. And it is open worldwide. So no matter where you are, type the word classic. If you're watching the replay, you can also enter to win. We just need 2 things, your first name and your favorite thing to do when you're not sewing, okay? Because, you know, even though sewing can be a you know, an all-consuming thing, we need to sometimes get out of the sewing room. So tell me what you like to do when you're not sewing. You have until Wednesday, March 4th to enter, and then we'll randomly choose a winner. So let's look at a couple of questions here. Parrot Wrangler 3799 asked, what size rivets do you use in your slip pockets? This is a good question because actually this question came up yesterday as well in the sew along, like what size rivets do you use? And so the answer was, look at my rivet container. I have 7mm, 8mm, 10mm, 12mm. I have all sizes. In the pockets, I usually use 7mm or less. But things, you know, fabrics and leathers are so different in thicknesses. It's hard to have just one size on hand. Usually rivets you can buy by the 100 pack. They're not super expensive, especially if you have a press and you have the right die, then you can kind of go with it. And, you know, it's not too bad. I highly suggest going ahead and getting the appropriate, you know, sizes, whatever typically works for you. But again, 7mm, 8mm, 10mm, 12mm are my go-tos. For instance, in the Simple Classic Clutch Hack, I had to use a 12mm on the side there in the leather and in the faux leather, just because it was just thick. You know, you're going through so many layers. Worst thing you can do is put a rivet too small in, okay? You really want to make sure you use the right size. Otherwise, it will come apart, even if you have a press. So we also got a question about the Talise pattern. Coffee Hobby and me asked, could you possibly turn out the bag and lining to avoid binding the edges? So here's the Talise. Again, we've brought this up a few times. And I think what you're basically asking is, can you do wrong sides together and switch the bag right side out? And I don't think that's going to work. And the reason why is because these sections right here are very, very thin. They only get to like 1 inch. And I think if you tried to do wrong sides together and flip it out, you wouldn't be able to get those edges out. I will say that if you try it, make sure you add a seam allowance to the top, because there's no seam allowance here on the top, and because we're just binding it, okay? So you got to remember that a lot of times when patterns are written a specific way, like this one here, the seam allowance has been accounted for in the pattern. So if you want to change it, you've got to go ahead and make the changes so that you have enough space to do what you need. All right, and Christine asked last week, and of course I wasn't here, if our new boxed corner ruler can be used with a 28mm rotary cutter. So I tested it because I wasn't sure, and it can. Here's what's going to happen though, is you're going to get a tiny little bit of overcut, maybe just a little bit. But it really isn't a big deal, because when you box those corners, you're stitching usually a 1/4 inch or a 1/2 inch anyway, and you're going to stitch right. I mean, the overcut's not that deep, so you shouldn't have any problem. So the answer to that question is yes. All right, so let's see if we have a winner. So Cheryl, is it Macy Juski? Email. Congratulations. Yeah. Email share@simplyclassic.net. I'm sorry if I butchered your last name. Actually, we were laughing a little bit ahead of the going live that this was a episode filled with F's. It was like a tongue twister. Faux fur and real fur, and we were trying to say faux fur 44 times, and you know, it was just, we were having fun with it. So anyway, it was definitely fun time for faux fur. Anyway, but congratulations. Please make sure you email share@simplyclassic.net within the next 24 hours and let us know which pattern you'd like, and we'll get it right to you. So thank you so much for joining me for the Bag Maker's Workroom. Make sure to join us next Thursday, March 5th at 7 p.m. I am supposed to be here for the next few months, so we should be live for the next few months, barring any issues or problems or me suddenly getting called out of town. So next week, we're going to do a sewing episode. I'm going to show you how to hack the Kaplan pattern to make it more of a masculine messenger bag. So make sure you get your supplies this week while they're discounted. And don't forget to submit your Simply Classic makes by posting them in the Facebook group or emailing share@simplyclassic.net. Please remember to click the thumbs up button on the way out, okay? Love it. Till next time, everybody, happy sewing.